everyone. Thank you so much today for joining us for our webinar. It's all about the secret to admission success, and in particular, response. This is actually about your response to leads and inquiries. So here's your host for today. My name's Christine Wyatt. I'm the CEO of TWG Plus, and with me today is Scott Mallen from Liaison. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you very much.
So Scott is actually with us here in our Austin office, and here's our agenda for today. And so first, I just want to talk a little bit about our partnership is still fairly new, Scott. So this year, we joined with Liaison to leverage their enrollment management platform, which we'll call EMP today, in our student search campaigns. So really, it's all about recognizing how important search data is to our partners in higher education. And we're combining our award-winning creative with EMP to deliver communications on multiple platforms. So with EMP, essentially what we're enabling our partners to do is to see data on every email open, click, and form submission in one central location, so then they can respond to all their leads and prospects in one spot. So what we'll do today, and we talked a little bit about the partnership, we'll talk a little bit about our philosophy in search. Scott is going to take us through the 4 keys to a powerful response. We'll also talk about some case studies along the way. And by the way, folks, if you have questions, you can just put those in the GoToMeeting chat or question window, and hopefully we'll have time for questions at the end. If we run out of time for questions, please still put those in there. We always convert this to a blog post after the webinar. We'll put all of our sources for data, reports, and information that we used putting this together, as well as any questions we maybe didn't have time to address in the time for the webinar. So let's get started.
So I'll kick off. So before we get started, I just want to talk about, it's always great to see what schools are doing and their results. So I'm just going to quickly show you Faulkner University, one of our clients that has our system. Their first year that they really engaged with our system and use it to its fullest, they saw qualified applications go up 28%, application conversion rates after May 1st go up 17%, enrollment go up 32%. And their biggest thing, on the other side of that too, is just they saw an increased awareness of the Faulkner brand. And why they were so successful is they embraced the software and the philosophy of creating a great personalized response.
Fantastic. So that brings us to our search philosophy. So we have a very consultative approach, and what we'll talk about in a moment is before you even think about response, you need to think about who you're targeting and making sure you're talking to the right people. So for us, it often starts with the list buy strategy. As a company, we do most of the list buy purchases for our clients. We often inform them and consult with them very early in the process on what those list buys should look like. In addition, we've started using predictive modeling. And when we do that, we're able to tier prospects in a way that allows us to align those resources in dollars, other resources such as counselor travel, print materials, where they make the most impact. We want to really help you target the students and the prospects that are most likely to apply. So our philosophy really is simply just quality over quantity, making sure you're talking to the right people, that you're getting in front of them at the right time, that you're being extremely responsive, you're not letting any of your inquiries drop off along the way. And you know, a lot of this is just really managed in one central location, which is one of the things we really liked about Liaison system is we understand how important data is to you. We have clients that want to see real-time data, which you can do in the system, everything in one spot. They make decisions daily, and so they really want data that's easily accessible, easily digestible. They can make those day-to-day decisions that could make a huge difference in their enrollment class. So we wanted to kind of kick off a little bit talking about, Scott and I are both going to talk about knowing your audience, and you've probably heard a lot about Gen Z. We've been talking about it for a while now. This is who we're all targeting and our higher education institution partners are targeting. Some of this comes from really recent. Last month I attended the South by Southwest EDU. Some of it comes from research and reports, and we'll put all those sources in the blog post at the end. So some things that may have been updated recently is this is turning out to be a very pragmatic generation. So they really want to know where their money's going, and not surprisingly, they and their parents are really focused on the return on investment of college. We've heard some students say, I'm not sure I'm going to college because I don't know what that investment is going to get me. So we keep these things in mind when we create the different campaigns for our schools. We certainly recommend that you address that early and often. This year, Google's head of education revealed that in 2006, the #1 term or phrase that was searched related to college was, "What to bring to college?" And in 2016, that has shifted dramatically to how to pay for college. So understand that that is what is top of mind for your prospects and for those prospect parents. Understand they are more risk averse. They were born into a time where there was a recession. They saw maybe their parents lose jobs or houses. They don't like this idea of upheaval. They're really looking for education that leads to employment. This is incredibly important to them. So again, very pragmatic, money sensitive. ROI is incredibly important to them, and we'll weave that through what we're talking about today. This brings us a little bit to behaviors. The generation before Gen Z, the millennials, was estimated at 12 seconds. We've lost 4 seconds, Scott, in just one generation. We're down to 8 seconds. So your message should be personalized. It should be targeted. It should be timely. It really has to grab them with 8 seconds. This generation in 24 hours spends 7.5 hours on average in front of a screen. But Scott, you and I were talking about kids that we know, and your children, sometimes it's up to 5 different devices at one time. So you have to think about, making sure that your email campaigns and other outreach and websites and things are responsive, that you're reaching them on multiple platforms, because they can be up to 5 devices at any given time. And this generation also is always on their phone. This is not a surprise to those of you who are targeting this generation or have children in this age range. 75% of them check their phone within 1 hour, and about 25% check it within minutes of waking in a day. So you know that this is the first thing they're checking each day. Now this is an interesting one. So this has changed year over year quite a bit. So the last time we saw this report was for 2015 data, and it was 53% of prospective students expected a turnaround time of 24 hours or less when contacting a college. In 1 year, this has risen to 60%. So I'm very interested to see what the 2017 time is. I can't imagine that percentage is going to go down. And Scott's going to talk about how it's automated and you can actually reach students very quickly. And it's something we recommend for every campaign for all of our partners, is to, when someone engages with an email,
you have an instant response.
That's right, on many different flat levels, absolutely. So this brings us to how to reach this generation. Not surprisingly, knowing they're so pragmatic and cost sensitive, they care about ROI. 85% of prospective students are looking for scholarship information. What we've noticed in our 2016-2017 search campaigns is that the links that do the best, the subject headlines that really seem to resonate with this generation, is about scholarship information or financial aid information. Maybe it's a link to a scholarship calculator. You know this is going to be an issue. Try to give them as much of that information early on in your email campaigns or your outreach, because if you put this in the 4th or 5th email in a series of 10 or 15 or 20, you may never get them to open something that late in the series. You really want to have that first or second. It always is a top performing list link across all of our clients. So highly, highly recommend you put that front and center. Also, Scott's going to talk a little bit about this as well in terms of different platforms, but meet them where they live. This generation still uses email, but they're also on a number of different social media and other platforms. We've seen YouTube do really well, still very strong. One of the other things that performed extremely well for our partners this year was to include aspects of video to make your creative look more like social media, very image and video driven. Across all the different platforms in terms of social media, the one that seems to be holding the strongest year over year is still Snapchat. Still a lot of people using it. A lot of that's international. I think 51% of Snapchat users now are international. So if you're targeting international students, you might want to consider talking to your partner about doing something on Snapchat as well. So back to you, Scott, for more about Faulkner.
So let's look in terms of how did Faulkner get those kind of results year over year. So I think when you really look at their team and what they did, they focused on response. So it's, again, looking at, it's so important to decide on who you're going to reach. But once they respond, what are you doing? And that is so critical in this whole process of admissions. And so when we look at this, we look at it as 4 keys to response. It has to be relevant. So when someone asks a question about biology or chemistry, you need to give them information immediately on that. They're asking for that. It has to be immediate. We all are the Google generation where we ask a question, we want an immediate answer. And imagine if Google said to you, great, I'll get back to you in 24 hours. You'd never use Google again.
That's right.
has to be automated. This is a 24/7 society. Kids are inquiring at 12 o'clock at night. If you don't have an automated system, now you're waiting to then respond to that and get back to that student. And everything you do has to be trackable. You need to know what they clicked on, where did they go, but beyond that, you need to know exactly how they're interacting with you as they go through that enrollment file. So if you look at relevant response, and we'll go through each of these 4 keys. Relevant response, so this is a great study that I absolutely love. It looks at response rates. So just personalizing something will give you a 20% lift. And what I mean by personalization is putting someone's name on a letter or on a piece of paper or something like that. Just their name, personalizing it, can see a lift of 20%, which is pretty significant. And now if you start talking about the right individual, and what we talked about at the beginning about your list of trying to find the exact student to talk to, who is that right individual that will actually listen to my message? You can see 2 times lift off of that. Now when we give that right individual the right message, we know that this student is interested in this information, and we give him that right information, now we can start seeing 5 times lift. And then if we hit them at the right time, it's, this is when this kid or this prospect is actually going to be looking at schools, we can see a 10 times lift. But I think this is the most important one, learning. And what learning means is, as you engage and you respond to a student or a prospect, what are they saying back to you? And then are you taking that information and are you putting that into your next campaign or next messages? That's when you really start seeing amazing lift. That's truly where all schools have to be in their admissions marketing. So finding the right prospects?
Absolutely, sure. So this really goes back to the beginning, and what we found is that the quality of your list, whether it's an inquiry list that's in-house or that it's a purchase list or some combination therein, it all starts with the list buying and student enrollment search. So I won't go through all of these. There are some I did want to touch on, but you should be collecting as much data about your incoming class as you possibly can, starting at the very beginning. Some of these things are very basic, like name, email, address. But for a partner like TWG to work with you to ultimately tier your enrollment funnel so that you're funneling those dollars to the prospects and the students you have in that funnel who are most likely to apply. And that could be everything from how many emails you send to the really nice print pieces to a smaller, more conservative postcard. Everything begins with we need 3 years of historical data and the stage of the student. We'd like to know what the original source is for the student, which is not on this one. The 2 I did want to talk a little bit about is FAFSA and campus visit. One of the things I can't emphasize highly enough is that we've seen time and time again through studies that if a student submits a FAFSA to your school, you should score them highly, which maybe Scott will talk about shortly, and you should also make sure that you follow up with those students. They're much more likely to apply than those who don't submit a FAFSA. The same is true for campus visit, and I encourage you to think about campus visits in terms of unique visits. So if they're doing multiple unique campus visits, that's a high indicator that student really is interested. You should be following up with that student. You should tier them in that top tier. These are very good predictors of enrollment, much more so than some of the other things on here combined. Anything to add on this one, Scott?
Yeah, so this is great. And when we're talking about, we're finding that right prospect. And then we're collecting this great information. And this is so important because then we can use all this information for all the campaigns down the line. Since we're doing this with a marketing platform that's all completely automated, you can run amazing campaigns off of FAFSA information, campus visits, or any other questions you can ask.
Absolutely.
So Gen Z, just if you start thinking about relevant response, Gen Z growing up with 24/7, 365 on their phone, demands an instant information. Ask a question, get an answer. Again, it's that Google society we live in where we need instant information. I know that the one study saying people are expecting a response in 24 hours. I really think to truly be out there, you need to have an instant response.
I agree.
That's what we truly all are getting right now. But I think the biggest thing is Gen Z, they really welcome a personalized marketing experience. I think we all do. I mean, if you just think in terms of your campaigns and your admissions, How does that relate to what we have out there with Amazon or Google? It's such a personalized experience. We all are expecting that and demanding that. And then if you're looking at parents, parents are the number one influencer, and especially on the undergrad side, this is so important to do outreach to your parents and to talk to them in their language with what they're interested in. What you want to talk to a parent about is completely different sometimes than what you want to talk to a prospective student. They also want that immediate response. Again, they want to make sure that where their child is going to is somewhere where their child is wanted, and you can create that by that immediate personalized response to them. The other part too with parent is they have different channels that you can reach them on. So an example would be there's a lot of parents that still prefer phone calls, still prefer print media. If you think about it, print sometimes is the only way to truly reach the parent one-on-one. They could have a student that's engaging with the school online after hours. The parent probably doesn't even know that the student reached out and inquired. But the print portion of this is how you then can start engaging the parent.
Sure. One of the things I thought was really interesting, and actually I didn't find anywhere else when we were looking for a partner, is the immediacy and the variable content that your company can do with print, which is really fascinating, gets that in the hands of students incredibly quickly. Once they show interest, the clock is ticking, and to be the first one to get something that's personalized in their hands, in the parents' hands, I think makes a huge difference. And I think this is something that's really often overlooked, Scott. I think a lot of different institutions focus so much on the students, and it's maybe forgotten or discounted the influence and the impact of the parents in that decision making. And a study back in 2014 showed that you could see up to 51% increase in applications when involving the parent, and up to 4% increase in deposits. It matters. That makes a huge difference in your involved class.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk a little about relevant response and how important creative is to this.
Absolutely. This is where TWG really shines. We've won a lot of awards for creative. We've really partnered with a lot of different types of institutions who've given us a lot of trust to represent their brand and to be in front of them with everything from the copy to the videos and things. So what I would suggest is that you really consider the creative part of the strategy, and you begin with ROI in mind. So I'm hearing more and more from our clients. Sometimes they want to know how they spent every single marketing dollar, because the person to whom they report, maybe it's their president or provost, really wants to know how they're spending those marketing dollars and what they're getting for those dollars. That's a very fair question that's always top of mind for us as a company, so we're making sure we add value in a way that comes back to ROI. So establish a set of goals. Think about, again, with the end in mind, what are the goals that you have in front of you for your enrollment class? What are your mission statements? How do we align the resources that you have and the dollars you spend with TWG to really come back and emphasize and underscore those goals for you? So you feel really great when your president or someone comes to you and say, how did you spend your marketing dollars? Where did it go? How many, what was the cost per inquiry? All those things. We should, your partner should be able to hand that over to you at the end of that class. Plan ahead to stay on time and budget. The timeliness and the responsiveness matters. The quicker we get things all settled for the search season, and that's everything from, how many emails do we, suggest is going to be important for you? How do you want to tier your prospects? Who gets what print piece? How many emails do you get if you did a campus visit versus not? All these things matter. We're here to help you plan that ahead of time, and then we can help you stay on time and on budget, which is always, always important. So go ahead and, work with us to define the pieces that you need, and keep in mind that, this piece is for a parent, and that's the purpose of this piece. It's very different maybe than this piece is for counselors, if this piece is for the student itself. This is a variable print piece. It's all about major and interests that we collected from this student as we learn more about him or her over time. We love using design aspects or elements that really kind of look like social media. So we're using icons, we're using images. We love using aspects of video. It does extremely well. The last several years has been very strong. It's always heavily, floats to the top of every campaign season in terms of top links. Things like that matter. You have to kind of meet the students where they live and what they look and feel of everything is. Try not to be too static. Go ahead and be creative. We've seen some really interesting ways where our clients have worked with us to produce pieces that's maybe a hat. They take the hat, they're accepted, they put it up, they put the Snapchat or, Instagram, tag, off they go, and then that proliferates, and, these are great positive experiences that your students can share. So there's many, many interesting ways you can blend the digital with the print to create a unique, personalized experience for that student.
So that's great. And again, as far as creative, what's really fascinating to me is that when you make creative as part of your strategy and you start looking at creative, instead of seeing just this is a great picture of campus, that's where you really can shine on campaigns, is when you add that creative to good strategy. So talking about relevant response, I think it's very important that everyone starts thinking when we talk about how did we respond to this inquiry, not just saying, oh, we sent them an email. You need to start thinking in terms of relevant response, omni-channel. What I mean by omni-channel is you're using every different channel that's out there. So you might be using variable print. You can use email. You can use phone calls. You can use your digital marketing retargeting. You can do text. You can do an online response. All of these are connected. So if one system is producing all of these, it's the same message, you're asking for the same response. You can track it all, but it has to be omni-channel. You can't think in terms of, okay, I'm going to respond with an email here, and then a week later I'm going to send this mail piece by over here, and it's a different message, different creative. It has to be all connected. It's so important as the student and the parent are looking at this, they're getting the same message across all these different channels. And of course, when we've looked at this, this is a great study that we found. If you're looking at a response campaign, you can do print only, and you're going to be seeing a response rate of, say, 6%, conversion rate of 16%. But as you add more channels to this message, and again, when we say omni-channel, it's the same message, the same response mechanism built into each one of these. You can start really increasing your response rates, and more importantly, your conversion rate can go way up. And of course, now we're going to talk a little bit about the need for immediate response. So it's great that you're going to get a relevant response. Someone asks about chemistry, you're going to talk to them about chemistry. But how fast are you getting back to them? So this is a great study that we found that 25 to 50% of sales goes to the first responder. So you think in terms of just business, or if you reach out to someone and looking to buy some kind of product, normally you're going to go with the first person that gets back to you immediately and answers your question, as opposed to the person that, waits 3 days and finally calls you back and says, oh, you still interested in this? Right. No, I already bought it. That's right. It's the same thing with school. And again, remember, you're talking with a 17, 18-year-old. If you don't respond immediately, they literally have probably forgotten about you because they inquired with another school that did get back to them right away. And they've already committed to that open house. So it's incredibly important that it's immediate response is so important. You can't think that 24 hours, in my mind, is way too much time. It has to be the moment they say, I am interested, I'm raising my hand, you need to do something immediately to them. So why also does the speed matter? Well, remember, this is Google generation, and this includes parents. We all are the same way now. We're so used to asking a question, get an immediate answer. And if you don't, then you're going to lose that. We're all 24/7. And we all expect a personalized response. I mean, when I go on to Amazon and I buy a product, they're showing me other products like that. And this is the kind of personalized response we all expect today, and it should be coming from all schools. So now let's talk a little bit about how you can pull all this together, and that's from the automation part of this. So this is kind of a little wireframe that I do to show you exactly how you can create an automated response. This happens to be our system, the EMP, that can manage all this. But again, every school is going to have inquiries coming in from multiple ways. They're going to be doing lead gen, search. They're going to be doing digital marketing, retargeting, search engine words. They're also going to have inquiries coming through your website from inquire, book a visit, learn more. You're also going to be having inquiries coming from college fairs, high school visits, and then there's a ton of other lead sources that are out there. So what we want to do is we want to funnel each one of those through dynamic form fill that knows where that inquiry is coming from, when it came in, we're going to slightly vary that form fill for each of these different lead sources. But the difference is now when you fill that out, this person just raised their hand. I am interested. I like what you're saying about your school. I want to learn more. When you hit submit, this is where it really takes off. So when you hit submit, you're just not saying thank you for your inquiry. You're going to get a dynamic microsite that's personalized to you. It's going to have your rep information. It's going to have variable video. It's going to have social media links. It's going to have information on your major, location, how far are you from campus. This is a dynamic site that is generated instantaneously. So you can have that instant response to that 18-year-old that just inquired at 12 o'clock at night. But now how do we engage the parent? How do we keep this going? So the next morning, 6:30 in the morning, out comes a variable view book that's completely personalized, just like the online piece, with all the personal information for that prospect. It's going to have the person's name on the cover. You know, John, you know, we want you here. The inside, it's going to talk about their major, distance to campus, any information that we collected on that prospect. We can use that to customize this piece. And this is now completely automated. So there's no intervention by anyone. It literally prints out, it gets cut, folded, inserted into a glassine, and out the door. So 3 days later, when that piece arrives in the mail, now you've engaged the parent, because there's not a parent in the world that's going to see a piece with their son or daughter's name on it. They're not going to open it up and start the conversation. But of course, now we also want to make sure that we're nurturing, that we never not talk to the student. So immediately, the moment too, when they fill out that form fill, they're getting a unique email back regarding where they came from and what personal information we want to have in that email channel. And then we can also do texting and voice nurture. So we're constantly touching and we're staying in front. We're not killing them with 1,000 emails. We can create great programs that, you know, are going to nurture the student all the way through the funnel.
Before we move on, Scott, would you talk a little bit about certainly what we've seen? We used to have 30-page, very elaborate, you know, multiple view books, but can you talk a little bit about cost savings in this variable print piece as well, which is also important?
Yep. So a lot of times with variable digital printing, it's an amazing channel to use. First, just the really cool thing is it's very green. So you literally, you're never printing something until someone requests it. So gone are the days when you have a closet full of view books that, you know, we changed the major, or we have a new president, or we have a new rep, okay, throw them in the dumpster. Now it's just, there's a change, the book's changed, and away you go. So it's completely, and plus it's completely automated. So this is all done in the clouds. So, you know, there's some kind of update to it, and bang, the next morning, out comes the new view book. But of course, now the great thing is you're not sending someone a view book with 65 pages and every major is included and everything that, you know, if you're a dance student, and this is a great story of a friend of mine, his daughter was interested in dance and he found 6 different really great programs throughout the country. She picked the one that's actually sent a brochure with someone dancing on the cover of a piece versus the better programs, but there are also other schools, so they got the big view book. She was just, in her mind, it was all about dance.
That's right. If that's on the cover, that speaks to her.
Absolutely. Sure. And that's the impression she's getting, and you know, and so, but the other part too is also now your size of your book can go down. So now when you're talking about costs, digital printing per piece is a lot more money. But remember, you can give the same information in 8 pages to someone that's personalized and relevant versus the 65-page when you're trying to cover everything under the sun. And again, too, when you start talking about variable, its content is king. You know, as a student or a parent, you want specific information. When you open this up and you can see that, the impression you're getting is this school is all about what my son or daughter is interested in.
Very good. Thanks, Scott.
Sure. So again, the really nice part about an automated system like this, a marketing platform, is that you can use this throughout your whole funnel. So that Pearl page, as that prospect goes from prospect to inquiry to visited to applied, accepted, deposited, enrolled, that microsite is changing, and you're showing new content every time they go through different stages. And the nice part about this is all of these things can be set up for your marketing programs in the lower funnel, and it's all automated. So this is not something that you have to constantly just keep, intervening and, oh, now we have to send this campaign. It just happens. So now what happens is, the beautiful part about a marketing automation system is your staff can actually do their job, which is recruiting. They can go in here and say, I can go in here and look at my top students, show me all the students that hit my site yesterday. Those are the ones I'm going to call that morning. So then they're actually, something's engaged, they're engaged right now, and I want to talk to them today. And of course, again, this whole thing is run by that in the cloud software. So now let's talk a little bit about the trackable response, why it's so important to track response. You want to just talk a little bit about ROI?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I touched on this earlier, but I think really if you begin with the end in mind, what your platform does a great job is it ties all those pieces together in one spot. There's never any questions about dollars spent, waste avoided, making sure you're targeting the students that are most likely to apply. The ability to measure ROI, I think, is only going to become more important, not less. And the ability to tie all that in one spot for us, frankly, as a company, is something we used to in years past do manually. Every end of campaign report was just a little bit different. It took us a long time to put together. It was specific for that partner. Now everything is in one central location. Also, this is something, trackable response, that gives you that ability to, every morning, really your team should know exactly the tasks that could be focused on. And this is the ones, the prospects or leads are most engaged most recently. There's no reason why you can't whittle down a whole bunch of outreach to the ones are engaged right now, catch them before they move on to another thing that caught their attention. But everything from the ability to test that A/B split testing, outreach, scoring interactions, this is huge. So one of the things I also love is that you can take a student who did submit a FAFSA or maybe made one or more unique campus visits. You can tailor a whole group, and everything they do after they submit that FAFSA, you can have a group of students that are FAFSA submit versus those who didn't. And you can treat them very differently, and I think that's very appropriate. This is something that I think for a lot of colleges with small teams, really difficult to split and divide and personalize at that level. You can layer upon layer upon layer of personalization. It can be about major, it can be about location, it can be about financial aid, but it can also be, did they or didn't they submit a FAFSA or campus visit or both?
Yeah, so in essence, you're taking, instead of just looking at tracking to look at just how did this campaign perform, now you're using tracking to actually build new campaigns. That's right. Which is so exciting, because now it's so important at the bottom of the funnel. When as you go down, it's so important to know these things, and then you can start building campaigns off them. One of the things our system does really well is scores interactions, and the next couple slides we'll talk about that. But imagine have the ability to score all the different interactions that your students are doing with the system, and basically, in essence, the student will start telling you what their interest level is, and then you can focus your resources on the ones that actually are interested in your school. So here's just a great example of what you can do with tracking. So this is just a page from our system on the EMP on the back end, and this is how you create campaigns. It's very easy to use, a nice clean interface, and you can build out a campaign. So this is a nurture campaign. So what we're saying basically here is that first tier across the top that's the first tier of information out. So it's a email to one group, an email to a second group, and then we're also then adding a print piece to that first initial nurture. So that goes out. But now what we can say is, okay, that first email that went out, we want to take any prospect that actually opened that email, anyone that clicked on the link at the bottom of that. Doesn't matter what they went to afterwards, but if they clicked on that link to go back to their Pearl or go back to wherever you're sending them, the next day, so the next track in that automated campaign is we're going to say basically anyone that opened that email, we want to send them a personalized text the next day. So we have the ability to just completely automated. Text is going to go out from the rep saying, hey, I see you're interested in our open house day. Let me know if I can help anyway. And for people that don't have an opt-in text, we'll send them an email. Now we really want to make this a personal outreach. So now we can create an automated to-do for the rep. So your reps are going to get to-dos every morning that says, this person opened this, clicked on this email, call them back with not just a, hey, hi, how you doing, can I help you? You know that they were interested in this. They clicked on this. So now your response to them can be, I notice you're interested in attending the open house in 2 weeks. Can I help you out signing you up? Now you've created this really powerful learning system that can be completely personalized to each prospect.
That's right. And for our clients, Scott, we're actually doing all of this setup for them. So,
Yep.
you know, you would arrive, your team would arrive, and you would have your tasks and to-dos in the morning. Really, all you need to do is execute on those tasks.
Absolutely. And again, part of that, too, is we should talk a little just quickly. When you look at our system and TWG, you know, the nice part about this is it's one package where you're getting someone taking care of all this and setting it up and strategizing, giving you best practice. So it's not, again, this system isn't something you have to then do yourselves or pray you have a great IT department. None of that is involved. It is completely automated, and all the implementation and creative and strategy come with it.
That's right. You're logging in as a school to see what your tasks are. Our teams behind the scene are looking at deliverability, analyzing what links early on are doing really well. We're trying to spot trends. We use all those minor things or major things to help improve the campaign along the way. These are what you really partner with us to do. Just log in and do your tasks, and we're doing very similar ones behind the scenes. Yeah,
and I think there's a lot of synergy between our companies because we both realize that software is not going to help your enrollment. Great campaigns will. The software helps us run the campaign.
Absolutely.
So interactions is a really interesting thing. So in our system, we basically are tracking every interaction that your prospect has. So the moment they get an email, we're tracking that. The moment they click on something, we're tracking that. They actually go to a form fill and fill it out, we're tracking that. They hit their Pearl, everything they do on their Pearl, we're tracking that. Any nurture programs or anything else we do down there, we track that. And what we do is we give an interaction rating to all those interactions. And in essence, it's a behavioral rating. What is this person doing? So then now we can build campaigns off of this, which is really exciting. One way you can do this is, I don't want to send our big view book to every prospect. I want to send it to people that are actually interested. That's great. So we'll wait until you get to 100 points. Now, okay, you're engaged. You've been hitting this. You've been looking at stuff. We're going to now spend the money on you and the time to prospect you because you've hit a certain rating. The really great thing is as you go down the funnel, there's so many things you can build off of this interaction rating. FAFSA, you could then give 50 points for someone that submits that, and that's a real indicator of interest. So if you're collecting that in your SIS system, you can immediately port that into the EMP, and the next day your rep gets to make a phone call or a text, or you could launch a complete campaign because you know you can spend the time, money, and energy on this prospect because they are truly interested. And you want to spend your money on people that are actually interested in your school. So we'll just show a couple quick case studies just off of that. Franklin Pierce University, a small, private, rural college in New Hampshire, when they had our system and they completely, and I say engage, you can buy software, but when I talk about engagement, I mean they embrace the whole personalized approach to marketing, to admissions marketing. And so their first year results were incredible because they went all in. We completely changed every one of their print pieces. It's completely personalized. They use our full system, so it's an integrated application. It's a private social network on the back end. So they engage them at their first moment, but they keep that engagement going all the way to the actual enrolled class. So their inquiries were up 49%. Their apps were up 66%. The quality apps, which is always something I always like to talk about.
That's a great point.
Right. It's and the way we did that is, what's the engagement of those applications? Someone opening an email, is not, in my mind, someone that's, an inquiry. An inquiry is someone raised their hand. They said, I have interest in your school. I want to learn more. Deposits were up, and they had record enrollment. And to this day, they've been growing every year. And again, for a small liberal arts in the country, that's great to see these kind of results.
Very impactful. Fantastic.
So again, just to remember when we talk about response, and just think in terms of what you're doing right now. When an inquiry goes to your website, fills out a form fill, comes through search, doing digital marketing, or you're at a college fair or high school visit, what happens when you get that lead? I mean, is it immediate? I mean, are you immediately, when someone hits your website, are you immediately getting back to them? Are you engaging with them right away? Is your messaging relevant? If someone says in a form fill, they say they're interested in dance, are you responding with an email that's all about dance? Are they getting print material that's about what they're interested in? Especially, I always use dance because there are majors that are, like really close to someone's heart. Art majors, dance, engineering, they're passion majors, and those are particularly, you really need to be relevant in your messaging. Is your system automated? So at 12 o'clock at night, when somebody is, inquiring at 5 or 6 schools, are you immediately getting back to them because you have an automated system? Or are you waiting for human intervention the next day? What happens if they don't get to it? Now then, instead of a 24-hour period, now it's 36 hours. And are you tracking everything your students are doing and then building your new campaigns off that information you've tracked? Those are the things you really want to look at because response is so critical. We see it a lot in the higher education market that, you can do great outreach and you can find the right students, but boy, you better be able to respond the right way.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So this is something fun, Scott.
Yep.
After hearing so much about response, we thought you maybe might be a little curious about your own response. So tell us about this URL and what's going to happen when we send people to this URL.
So we created we have a demo site. We call it EMP University. We created a quick URL for this one. It's twgdemo.myviewbookdemo.com. And you'll experience what it's like to get immediate, personalized, automated response. You go through the form fill, definitely put your cell phone in. We definitely won't text you, just the one text you'll get that shows the power of a personalized text. And you go through it, you'll fill it out, and you will see what is the power of EMP University. One of the really cool things you'll get this crazy view book in a couple days, which is all about, shows you the power of variable print, that's been literally sent as you do this inquiry. You'll get a series of emails. You'll see that microsite, and you can go around. There's form fills on it. There's relevant information. One of the things we really try and do on the microsites is make them interactive, like ask you a lot of questions. Because again, you want to see students engage with you, and you want to ask them questions. And when the people that do fill it out, now you have more information that you can build more campaigns. So you can look at all that information, and any questions, you can get back to TWG. I think it's a really cool experience. And you get to really experience what it's like to be a prospect using our system.
Fantastic. All right. So we've reached a point now we're going to pause and we're going to see, we'll wait. Hopefully you've been putting some things in as we go along. I'm just going to check and see if we have any questions that are in the system. Sometimes when I'm on these webinars, I forget. I don't currently see any questions, but I know people probably have some questions out there. So we'll give it a couple seconds here. If you have questions, raise your hand. Just go to that right, kind of pop out menu and go to meeting. You can put your questions in there, or you can put them in the chat. We'll see them either way. Any other things we should be thinking about to wrap this up while people think about questions?
No, but it's really exciting because I know that part of this partnership is we are really impressed with your ability on the search side to find the right audience and do great creatives. And it's so exciting for us as, a software company to have that, combination of not only finding the right students, doing the right creative, but then having now this system that we can maximize that.
Absolutely.
It's really exciting.
It really is a case where the sum is more than the two parts together, right? I mean, it was great to find a partner that really hits on all these things we know are important to Gen Z in particular, and making sure that we have a way to do that that's scalable. So again, we're providing a lot of those services, the creative, the strategic consulting on the front end, whether it's list buys or how you should think about your different creative pieces, where you should spend your marketing dollars, all those things, how to incorporate digital, which is becoming more and more prevalent, and which, by the way, has great ROI. All of these things are not only tracked by your system, you can build on those variables to create this immediate, relevant, personalized response, which can only help. So we did have a question come in. So Karen says it sounds super good, but she's a small community college, and is it affordable for someone like us? So we can probably tag team that question.
Sure.
I can take the lead if you want, or you can.
No, go ahead. You can start.
Sure. So actually, both companies work quite often with smaller, private colleges. We do work with a lot of community colleges as well. We understand that resources are scarce. We fit as TWG best with institutions when we become an extension and we fill small gaps or sometimes really large gaps, whether it's marketing enrollment or both. Could be brand, could be digital marketing. Really, most of our clients are smaller 4-year or 2-year. We have some larger clients, but those are kind of the outliers. And this is kind of our niche where we really understand that market really well. And our job is to take those budget dollars and make sure at the end, start with ROI in mind, that you feel really comfortable and great about, that value that we bring. So I think it's affordable, and because it really is designed for smaller schools. Anything to add?
Yeah, and really exciting to community college because your needs are different, but that's the beauty of automation, especially I think on community colleges. The real benefit is that automation, because your admission cycle is slightly different in the way you need to talk to students, but there's things you can, the beauty is you can set this up and that you can get a dynamic response to all of these kids that are inquiring or applying to you. It's really exciting on the community college level. We have a couple of community colleges that we've seen incredible results from.
Very good. Fantastic. So we got another question come in. This one is, does either organization have data on retention of enrolled students that have been through this kind of marketing as opposed to traditional less attentive search enrollees? So I like that in theory, having a personalized approach that really directs the students to kind of embrace the culture. Early on, a lot of it is about fit, but a lot of it is also about ROI and cost for that student. This is kind of new for us as a company, as a partnership. I don't know if you have data on this. This is something we can look into, but you may have some things having done more of these than us.
Yeah, so we do see an increase in retention. Just because, remember, you're finding the best fit student for your school. Sure. There is no gimmicks. You're not getting soft inquiries that it's just like how many can you get? Right. This is, if you look at everything, we really focus on response. When somebody asks a question, you're giving them the right answer. So, just as you do see better retention just because you're finding the right students. It's very important. Now, that being said, we are actually doing some work on looking at retention rates, and some of our customers have been with us for 4 or 5 years. That's something that we're going to do this summer and start doing some really analytics across system, all the people that use our system, and start looking at that, because that is an interesting one. It's anecdotal from a lot of our schools. That's one of the exciting parts, is they have better retention just because they're finding the right fit student.
Absolutely, and that starts at day one, which we've talked about. Yep. Well, Scott, thank you so much for being here in Austin, for being with us on the webinar. It's probably the first of a series for us as partners. If you have other questions, in general, you can send those to info@twgplus.com. But here's my contact and Scott's contact information. Thank you, everybody, for spending some time with us today. We usually have a webinar each month, so stay tuned for more information. We always transcribe the webinars. We put it up as a blog post. We'll put our sources there. If you ever have any questions or we can help, please reach out.
Sounds good.
Wonderful. Thanks
Thank
again
you
so much, Scott. All right.